Okay, so we're going to do a little bit about Tu Bishvat, B'ez Hashem. Do Rav Tzaddok on Tu Bishvat a bit. And, it's interesting, Tu Bishvat, this year we have a leap year, right? So usually Tu Bishvat is a sha'ar from the illumination, right? The trees. Right? That's when things start happening, right? So we're a month early, so why don't we have the sha'ar of the illumination a month later? What's it now? A month it's too early. Rov Kshamim, right? Most Kshamim happen by Tu Bishvat. Not this year. We're early. So why is Tu Bishvat? What's this Tu Bishvat thing? And also a lot of fruits, they happen at different times, in different situations, different seasons. Well, it's all every fruit. We eat this fruit. What's going on? So we understand that really the Eid of Tu Bishvat is a spiritual union. There are physical characteristics. Maybe sap goes up. Different things that go up this time. There are certain things, there's certain fruits that this is actually the time when things happen. I don't know, I think just say different things. This is the time for them, but not too many. But there's a spiritual thing happening with Tu Bishvat. Tu Bishvat is when things kind of flip around, and the year changes. Right now, it's a depth of winter. Tavas, and now in Shvat, the beginning of Shvat, also it's harder to access. Although it's easy to Tavas. Tavas, you have to have Hanukkah to kind of figure things out, right? The Tzfasem says that Tevis Miloshin Hatavas Haneros, because you're in the dark, you're in the deep darkness. What's called solstice, right? The Gemara of Zohar says that there's a whole thing of when the nights are long, right? It's a big time for the Zohar because it's a dark time, it's a difficult time. People physically also they have difficulties, but the bottom line is that it's hard. The winter is very difficult. Tu Bishvat is when that flips over. We're 30 days before, usually 30 days before Purim. That was 30 days before the first break. But we're starting. Things are starting to change, and that has to do with a change that's set in Shvat. In Shvat, true, it's in Shvat also, but it's in Shvat, right? It has to do with Shvat. So we have to be Zohar to appreciate it, to see that, and to understand that. But L'maisa, this is spiritually the time when things are moving with the fruit. And like Rav Tzaddok says, you can be Zohar to this tamar and achilah, especially fruits. Generally, tamar and achilah with this time because the whole inyan of the Chita tavas, whatever happened to the Gemara in Sanhedrin, almost the only thing they didn't eat was an apple, right? Everything else, anything you think of, right? This, it's wine, it's it, whatever. So the Ramad Valley puts them together, actually, I think in Iker. He puts them all together. So this happened. It was all one thing, because it's spiritual things, and this, that. It goes through, I don't remember now, it goes through everything, what it is and how it is. And the inyan of the inyan of this time, why specifically Shvat? Is because you have to change. You have a certain amount from Chanukah. I mean, you have the darkness. You have the longest days. They did happen, right? Pretty much. So it's after. I don't think there's any technique. Already things are starting to move forward. And now's the time when we can be Zohar to be mamshich of this tremendous ore, this big ore, right? This rough, this sap, whatever it is, the inner, the koyach to start really in the beginning until eventually there's a flourishing happening. And Shmuel Horvitz says that every person is like a tree. He said, you look at a tree, and the tree, listen, sometimes it's barren, nothing's happening because it's winter. He said, the same thing in your life. He said, sometimes things, they feel barren. Nothing's going, nothing's happening. It feels like a drag. You're frostbitten. You're dying. You can't even produce a leaf. You're just like, I dropped everything. There's nothing on. He said, what, could you imagine what would happen? People say, that's it. It's running a month. I'm getting nowhere. I'm chopping this tree down. The guy was like, what are you? Wait, the seasons change. Winter is also important for the fruit. Whatever, there are some trees that can't even grow without winter. But whatever, humans for sure, we're compared to trees, and we have to be Zohar to wait out the winter. We have to be Zohar you can't give up. The fruits will come. The flesh will come when you deal with the difficult thing. You have fortitude. You'll be Zohar. Everything will work. Everything will come together. So that's a person. We're also the same thing. We have ups. We have downs. We go through a lot of different things, and we have to know it's like that's the way it is with Avodah Hashem. Also, it's the same thing. Because even the summer when we produce fruit produce, it's also not necessarily the best yichud, because the summer is also a bechina of, right? It's hot, it's hard, right? Comes maybe spring is easier, or fall is different. The seasons, it's harder. It's this way, it's that way. Different one. Everyone the way the whole different things you go through, different things you have to undergo, and we have to be able to deal with it with tremendous fortitude. I'm just gonna, I think, may as well go through Be'ez Hashem quickly the 7 minim, right? So we have Chita. Chita is Chaf Beis, right? It's like Chaf Beis Eishis, like the Zohar says, right? So that represents the words of Torah in general. So Eira is Sharvav, like the Mekor Chaim explains, I think also from the Zohar, if I remember right, which is, he says Sharvav is mishnahs. That's the Torah Shval Pei, the beginning of right Torah in general. The Chita is more, one beginning, and then the Zohar is more din, because, it's not all there, and you don't chop from, you don't know only mishnah, so that's the worst thing, only mishnah. My goodness, guys, the pastor of mishnah, it's like, he doesn't know what he's doing, he doesn't get it, he doesn't know why, he doesn't know anything. Oh, it's why, it's fine, it's just like this. No, it's not. So you have to be very careful with that, but nevertheless, that's two of these inyanim, is this inyan of having the right kind of dibur. And we know that the sha'ar, you have this bahamius in a person, the Zohar, the Rav Tzaddok brings that mishnahs, we know mishnah is osus neshama, and mishnahs in general, chai prokim talks about especially, but mishnah says it has a power to really break the Zohar. There's even the Chita brings a medrash. I don't know what this medrash is. I don't know if we have this medrash, but Chita brings a medrash in his book of avodah, I think, that a person, I think Usher, waits at the gates of Gehenna, and so the Mishnah, she doesn't let them in. So Mishnah has a power to be mamtik din. It helps you in Neshama, it's mamtik din. It's also part of why we say Mishnah is for Neshama, Makesher, or it's Neshama. No, Mishnah has a tremendous strength in it. Tremendous koyach. So, Tu Bishvat, the first thing, want to be mamtik din. So you have Sa'ora, right? And you have the Chita also, it's beginning of having the right kind of dibur. And the Torah pay in general, all sorts of different dibur, most beautiful dibur, it's more a chesed bechina, right? And then we have the bechina of yain. The yain, right? So you have the grapes, which represents the bechina of yain. Yain is, on the one hand, you have a tremendous koach, taxes very high places, right? Tirosh, the Gemara says. Tirosh is either, right? Tirosh could be tirosh, means you will be destitute, or tirosh, you will be the head. So you can use yain to take you to a high place. You can use yain to go to the furthest places. And I always say, right from Mekor Chaim, the beautiful Mekor Chaim, that he said we wouldn't touch this stuff; it's so dangerous. He said, but if you really want to get anywhere, kiddush, whatever, you can't exactly just leave it alone. So you can't live with it, can't live without it. So what do? You have to have a little bit kilo if you can. If you can't, you can. If grape juice, I'm not saying, but I can sing the inyanim. I think Rebbe Nachman always has grape juice. You shouldn't feel you have to. But there's mitzvah mufka if that works for you. So that's the beginning of what yain is about. Right? Yehoshah, it's a sode. The beginning of sode is a Torah. Deeper in yanim, that's called. You have lechem is the pashat of Torah, right? And you have the yain is the sode. You have to get also the deeper aspects. So that's the beginning of yain. Then we have right? Rimon. What's Rimon? So Rimon, we know that the Chazal say that Rimon is first of all. Some people say that they bring down. I don't remember where this is brought. The 613 seeds, maybe Chazal even, I think. But so that doesn't mean every Rimon has 613. Means it can. I don't think. It means it's possible. So it represents this bechina of being filled with mitzvos, right? So I think someone actually told. Did you tell me? Someone told me they counted. It was 613. I don't know who it was. Somebody said they actually counted, and they were like, "Oh, they were literally. That's amazing." Like, okay, good. Sounds great. If you have time to do that, you can count every once. And tell me, give me a survey. I don't know, But actually, yeah, right. So you have this bechina of what the Rimon is. Rimon is being filled with mitzvos. And it says that Poshi Yisrael are filled with mitzvahs like a Rimon. So, that we're all filled with, everyone has mitzvahs, we're all filled with mitzvahs. No such thing as not having mitzvahs, right? Like the Ramchal says, except he says, and if he doesn't, so there's chosavos. So, but he says, well, Maisa is anyway, no such thing, a Yid has no mitzvahs, it's impossible, it has to be to be something good there. He says, if not, chosavos, whatever that means, but actually that's what he says. So, the VItebsker, the prior, it says, I understand, why is it called Posh Yisrael? How is he a Jewish sinner if he's full of mitzvahs, like a Rimon? He said, because he doesn't understand the greatness of the mitzvahs that he has. He doesn't say that's why he's possibly a Poshah. You don't know who you are, you don't know what you have, you don't know your koch. That's the bechina of what a Rimon is. There are a lot of different, right? They used to roast the korban pesach with Rimon branches, but in Sfarim, because of this bechina of being filled with mitzvahs. There are different other inyanim in other areas. We have to be zocheh to really understand that I'm full of mitzvahs. What I do counts. It's very, very important. That's another part of what this whole process. We have the Rimon. Then you have the bechina of the tamar and the te'ena. Oh, wow, okay. So the tamar is a very interesting bechina. This realization, so first of all, the tamar is very, very sweet. The Israeli tamar, we don't even really have the ancient Israel tamarim. Supposedly the germinating seeds or whatever. I think seeds, they're supposed to be very medicinal and very, there's all sorts of things that helps. You have a date, you can't paskin, you're going to get confused, like, well, fermented date, well, what happened? So it's very sweet, like, so what? So you're bringing Jordan dates. The Israel dates were different. They were even a little bit, they could confuse a person. So the Indian is that the bechina of the dates are very sweet on the one hand. On the other hand, we know that tamar is Russian tmura, which means switching. Rebbe Nachman speaks about this. Heichel tmura is really in Ari, I think, also this idea of that a person has lots of things happen that get switched around. Like David HaMelech was part of this Heichel tmuras. It pulled David HaMelech's neshama out from a really far place. So there was tremendous opposition. It was very, very hard for him. Very hard. People, they have challenges. They don't understand. You have challenges. That's because you're a high neshama. That's how it works. When a person looks at their life and say, I was I can't believe I made it till now. I had so many difficulties, so many challenges. You tell a person what you went through, they say, really? That does not sound easy. It sounds very difficult, It sounds very difficult. So a person, that's the tzmura. There's a switch to be able to get here, to be able to make things happen. And it's our job to switch to the good. Rebbe Nachman tells a story, right, of the king's son and the maidservant's son. They got switched in. What does it mean they got switched in? They got switched in because we all have these two elements. You have the guf, you have the nefesh, and the question is the nisham. You have the question is who's going to win, the real tafka, the real you, or there's another part of me. Yeah, check out the sports game, do this, do that. Just don't do anything tomorrow. That you do tomorrow. And the stupid things that's very on campus. The game, gosh, what will happen? Some people, they don't understand. I'm not necessarily against seeing a game. I don't know. I'm not saying. The Ramchal says you need sometimes recreation. Every person to figure out what he needs. That's the called Bittul Torah. That you need what you need. Okay, I don't know what you need. The Rav says something the person needs, whatever it may be. Like this guy asked him about music. He's like, should I listen to music? Rav says not allowed. B'chlal. Impressive in general. People are they're cooler because of the simcha aspect. You want to be happy. So it's something music uplifts you. So that's already considered worthwhile, even though there's problems with it. It's not so posh to be up here listen music because we have the Mekor Chaim. We're all messed up.
So I was going to ask, specifically, what kind of music? And
okay, so that's the thing. So
it doesn't matter.
No, right. Ramosha doesn't matter. But in a sus, they even raised money for the yeshiva. He wouldn't let music. It's not close to his mitzvah, mamish. He was not thrilled. He problem. He was very, very, very machmir. So Rav said, the truth is you don't understand the sha'ar. He said sometimes a person is fundamentally, they have a part of them that's a bit down. He said so they need music. So it's medicinal. It's not relevant to what Chazal said or to have the pshat or emotion. If you need it, you need it. It's not kashur. Something you need. You have to figure out. Some person needs something. Needs it. Could be. I'm not saying it. You have to figure. Every person to figure out for themselves. What do I need? How do I need? Try my best to do it the way it should be. B'ez Hashem. But I think are mystical. You need what you need. But nevertheless, you have to work very hard to try to keep the dominant, the good, the real me. That's the real me. And the other stuff that's not real. It's not actual. That's unsubstantial. And of course, we know this. The whole thing of Tu Bishvat is trying to get there's something internal happening that I'm going to change. I want to flip around, change things around. So it should be little things. We're not in that story. The true king's son had to do very minor adjustments to things that were already in place, and they let him have access to. Oh, you want to try? Here you go. A little thing here, a little thing there, little things, and then everything's fine. Because we all have to sleep, we all have to eat, we have to do all these different things, and you live your life. And the question is, do you adjust things and make things in whatever way you can, or not? That's the question. It's not that complicated. It's not that complicated. You want to learn, like we talked about before, like halacha. How long does it even take? Wasn't the Rebbe Nachman of Alexander spoke about somebody who became a Baal Halacha in 10 minutes a day. He said, but every day, 10 minutes a day, and it can be it's so hard. Chaim, it's not so hard. There's a certain point, you finish it again, you get through it. It's not that hard. It doesn't have to be so kaved. It can be so heavy, so impossibly hard. It's not that hard. You learn, you do your kids, you learn you learn to do what you can do, and you can be really, really holy. A person like he has is really he spends his time those 10 minutes a day. And that's going to be all on, Fiyas is kemechza mechza. If you make a time and you're very strong, it's like half and half. It's like, why is it fair? All this farm apply that. That's a gzeres hakasuv. Chazal said that means that they decided they make different gzeres based on that. But it's a doraisa thing which we don't understand. But somehow all the forms say, it means you're making kfiyas. The chemistas, and many forms say, you're not making kfiyas. It's as if you spent half your day learning. It's like, why? I'm 10 minutes kfiyas, so what? Because the answer is with something that you're regular in, it goes beyond anything. You can take a guy who learning yeshiva, he learned well, and he's not really learning anything. So at a certain point, another guy is much slower, but he's going to get it. It doesn't take that. I'm very fond of the Chazanish. She said, you don't even sit in learning. Eventually, you get it. How hard, spending your time. You really have to say, how hard is it? It doesn't have to be. It's not impossible. It's possible. You can be chus, you can be zocher. So that's the beginning of the tamar, the tamura. Deal with the tamura properly. Understand that really there's a sweetness to it, but the idea is to flip it around. Spit out the pit and then flip it around. Then you have the beginning of the te'ena. The Medrash says that Yeshua is like a te'ena, because a te'ena, right, the fig tree, it produces fruit in a very, every day a little bit. So the fruit production, you have to really be on the spot to get the fruit. If you show up one day, a lot of it falls, the animals take it, it's not easy to deal with. So you have to be there. Yeshua always was there. So he did the tzedakah. If he became the next leader, he got a little bit more of the das of Moshe Rabbeinu. Why? Because he was zoche to this showing up and making it happen whatever way he can. And that's the lesson of the Tana. This is something which is a very, very difficult lesson. It's very, very hard. It's a very hard lesson. And it's really the way you deal with averis and hardships is making the kfiyas, especially in Torah, and being there, making it happen. That's why Adam and Chava cover themselves with the leaves of the ta'ina. This is the beginning of this ta'ina, because that's what's going to help you get the levush, the proper levush, the proper garb that you need to be able to connect to Hashem emes and be able to deal with these problems that we have. It's all this becomes the ta'ina of showing up. You have to keep showing up. You have to be there. You have to make sure to be there and be there again and be there again and be there again. And that's really what that's your for the kedusha. And again, the sitra achra is fighting. It's unbelievable how hard it makes. There's a murder with the shach. With the shach, he was a very, very accomplished learner, and his father-in-law was very wealthy. So one day his father-in-law, for whatever reason, could not be in the business. The business was full of people, I'm not sure if they were Jewish or not Jewish, but they were unscrupulous. And he was afraid if I don't show up, then, people will sort of, lose a little money here, a little money there. Oh, it was a slow day, sir. Yeah, right. It was a very big day for you. Slow day for the boss, because he didn't show up. So he told us, I don't know if he was not well. I know what happened. He said, please, I know you're usually doing everything. Please show up in the business and, make things should go. You're smart enough. He was very, very sharp. Shach. Sadly, anyone learns, we know that. I can't believe he's sharp. But the Shach, he went to the business. And he managed things, whatever he did. He made decisions, whatever. He came back with the day's, whatever money they made, and he made it it was more than a week. It's a ridiculous sum, some impossible sum. And his father was like, wow, this guy's doing business. And he comes home with a week's salary in one day. Not bad. So the next day he said, maybe you should go into business. Okay, well, you do very good. So the Shah said, listen, he said, the Zohar, this is how it works. He doesn't like you sitting there learning, right? So he says, we have to run after these guys learning. He said, but he's not going to just stop learning. He said, let's say, Erdof, he said, I'm going to go running after him. Nah, you should run after the money, right? Asig, and you'll make a lot of money. He said, the guy will be matzliach. He's learning, he goes to it, has achilah. He said, but then achalek shalom. He said, then he's going to lose every penny. He said, make the money, get out of the learning, and then you lose every cent, and then you're in trouble. That's like the Chibina Rav. He said, I'm not, his father-in-law let him learn. But the Chibina Rav would say, people would ask for smicha. And his smicha, boy, you really, you learn your day, you see it's hard stuff. The Primukadams on your day are super hard. And his test included all the Primukadams. They're easier than Rosh Chaim, because Rosh Chaim, as far as I know, didn't have paper. It's very, 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 very concise and brief. You don't even understand what he's saying. It's hard to learn without somebody helping you out, or unless you're really in the sugyas. Someone said, Maramokim, what's he trying to say? What's his psak? What's his very, 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 very brief. Your day is brief too, but not like that. That's really super duper brief. So your day is doable, but it's huge. It's every single prat, every detail. It's very, very difficult. When you wanted it from the Chibina Rav, you had to know with the Primogonim, and it could be even from the whole Chelik Aleph. In Europe, everyone, there was no such thing. A smicha meant aleph till kufid aleph, everything. There's no such thing as yepes. It doesn't work that way. A little bit, you have to know the whole thing. Because again, there was a big, today it's not so big issue. Today kashrus is a very big mystery for most people. They have no idea. Is it kosher? It's not kosher. What's kosher? What's not kosher? Nobody knows. People don't know. It's confusing to people. If someone's saying it probably is a chazaka. It's not simple. Working at kashrus today is much harder than it used to be in a certain way, and much easier in another way, because you have people who are taking responsibility. And they need, as Rav Nachman says, if you want to keep kosher, you know who has to help you. The Baruch Olam, nobody can help you keep kosher. It's only Hashem. He's the only one. That's it. Only the Baruch Olam can help you keep kosher. Nobody else can help you. Nobody else can do it for you. It's just Hashem. That's the way it goes. You want to keep kosher, you need Hashem's help, because otherwise, who knows what happens? Who knows what could be? So, today it's a sha'ar. But in those years, that was the big thing for a Rav. Trying to work out what to do. It's very, very not easy. The whole Chita thing is not a simple thing. Fight and minim, not a pashtazah. So, Rabbeinu Rav didn't want to give smicha to these guys. They knew it, back and forth. He's like, I can't give you smicha. They're like, why not? He said, if you're going to be a rabbi now, I'll give you smicha, because then you're going to use it. So you'll have time to learn. He said, but now you're going to go into business. And most people, they go into business, 10 years later, I lost this and lost that, and like the kids are nothing big. And he said, in 10 years you'll have forgotten every word of what you learned. So I'm going to give you smicha now. It's like either you're a master, well now you're a master, but unless you review, you're going to lose it, and you're probably not going to review because most people don't. So Mela, what will you know? I heard one yid, a friend of mine. He's my father's mamish. He's really earnest. He's really sincere. He got smicha and he chazes the chomer. Whoever heard of such thing, he chazes it. Unbelievable. He learned your dad. He chazes years later. He's still reviewing what he learned. So you shouldn't lose it. It's like smicha. They used to call it the lock. It's smicha. You're done. You're done. You finished. You did your duty. It's over. Teshuvah was the key, and smicha was a lot of inyanim. It's all mixed together. Nobody is done. And it's all chas v'shalom. That's not the idea. That's not what it's supposed to be. It's because it's an opportunity to be ready to learn. Today you need Mekor Chaim a lot more than a lot of your day. People at Shabbos, these questions come up all the time. Brachas, Hashem should protect us. Not easy. All these things. A lot of questions that come up that people don't know. And like Rebbe Nachman says, he says your day. Usually there's it's a sha'ar of the lung. You can check it. It's a tamar. You check it. You ask someone. You work out. It's okay. It's a sha'ar. You figure out the contract. It's complicated. He said, Shabbos is like on the spot. Yes, no. Can you do it? Can you do it? What do you do? It's like on the spot. In the moment, you have to give an answer. Most of the things like davening, what do I do? I can, I can't. It's not budget. President Midrash Monesrei. He has a shayla and a din. What does he do? So Mishnah says, well, you can check. You can go to the bookshelf and back, open the Mishnah and check. He said, can you ask somebody? He said, so here, I don't know. Sometimes you don't know that. So what are you going to do now? I don't know if I did it. I know the halacha. I remember I did this. What do I do? I'm going to stand there. I don't know what I'll do. I knew a guy. He didn't know. He asked me afterwards. He said, I didn't know what they're supposed to do. It's chusma. Supposed to do this and that. I'm like, Mr. Bruce says, you check. Really? It's like, if you don't know that, you're done. That's not even a complex. It's bad enough. But Shabbos is like the littlest thing can just... go through. Today, in Zohar Moshe this week, some guy comes over to me. He says, you're not allowed to blow on your glasses and polish them. It's also, I'm like, for what? No, it's mamash also. So he told me, I'm like, what malachis? He made up some whatever. There actually is a possibility. There is later, maybe there's episode shver veger about Zohar. Maybe that's what he means, although it's shverta. I don't know. Maybe. When I pull that from Shabbos Kalchas, I show him Shabbos Amro. Says mutter. You're not clean. He said you're not allowed to wet the pshmata, and then that's a problem. So yes, we know. Speak, no problem. Otherwise, he said he's permitted. He said, no, I have to check into it. And he was like giving tachach. He was so sure. He didn't know what he was talking about. Not the normal mahalach. It's not like that. Could we get there's a be'alacha, maybe that be'alacha. Nobody understands that whole thing that Yerushalmi, whatever it does, maybe. I thought of it maybe. I'm just trying to think, where did someone ever even come up with a possibility? Am I spitting in the whatever? Maybe there's such a thing about it. I don't think it's relevant here, but whatever. There's such a thing that maybe over there it's possible that he extrapolated from something we don't understand and we don't know what he even means. And so, well, if that's the case, then this is also the case, and that's also the case. Okay, whatever. But like Rishon Zalman it says it's mutter. And the Pasha says it's not a problem. Another person also told me, I have glasses that my somebody who was okay a little bit, they dropped, and I had such a dvekus, or not such a dvekus, whatever. I was like confused, so I was talking to someone. It dropped, and I didn't notice, and somehow someone was mechabed me a little bit. They stepped on it, so it broke. So Baruch Hashem, at least it attaches. So it fell off in the shul, and it went sliding. Couldn't find it. Looking, I was like, oh, Baruch Hashem, a little bit of kippah here, very nice. Trying to find things, trying to, And this guy told me, it's muksa. Like, first of all, it's not muksa because it says that if the door of a vessel falls, you're allowed to carry it because it's bottled to the vessel. It's nullified to the vessel. So it's nullified to A. B, thing keeps falling. It's not part of the it keeps falling off. Keeps falling off anyway, right? So it's not bona. And B, I could put it back on the glasses. Like there's no shot. I don't think anyone would say it's a problem. So what are you just making it? Oh, it looks. I'm afraid of. I know things. I don't know. Maybe you just don't. You're machmer all the time. It's like the VItebsker said. If you don't, you have to tie yourself in a chair. Whole Shabbos, you can't do anything because maybe you're doing a malacha. If you don't know what to do, it's like it's not precious. Mishabur brings you can't begin to know what to do. I have no clue what I'm doing. I don't understand. I don't know anything. I don't understand anything. I just don't know anything. It's like this is the Inyan. So because we have to be zochah, we want to be zochah to the Inyan of the bechin of the sraf. We want to change things around. We want to make things better. We want to connect. We want to be zochah to the order of halacha, to the order of all these good things. At the bechin of the right, you have to be regular as much as possible. At least every day, not to miss this chov of the day. If you did, okay, so tomorrow's chov, try to get to. Try to do what you could do. Try to make the time you need to make. That's Hashem. And try to learn how you learn, where you learn. So every person, there's something they have something starts to work. That's usually when something works, then they start suddenly says, no, you don't do this anymore. This doesn't work. This is not, it works, but you know what? This isn't going to happen. It starts to be this whole long thing. It's like, what this is what works for me. So great. To figure out what you need to do, Rav Shach would say, nobody can tell you how you should learn. You have to find out for yourself how to learn. What works for you, what talks to you, and then do that. It's not so complicated. So Hashem should help us be zochah. We want to change. We want to make a change, and I always like to bring on the beginning of the sraf and making a change in general, the story of Rebbe Nachman and the Rav Chaim, that he lost his father, Rebbe Nachman. Yeshiva moved, and when he came back, it was in World War I. His father was really deathly ill, and he was with him all the time, wasn't sleeping, wasn't doing anything, and then one night, one of the minim said, I'll be with your father, your mama, you're getting ill, you can't be, and that night his father died, and Rebbe Nachman was broken to pieces. Shiva and the Shloshim, he didn't come back to himself, couldn't say shir, nothing. So, he was a very heavy yid. When he said shir, every maybe 10 seconds, 30 seconds, he would say, but for the Bari Kolamin, you're not allowed to forget. Remember Hashem. Which is pretty, I'm still amazed. I don't know if I said that before. It's just something that I can't forget. Like, you have a literature gadol, and he's like, he's telling you deep shooting. If you learn these shurim, it's so wondrously subtle and perfect. He puts the sugyah together. He's one of those svarim. The svarim that they learn in the yeshivas, one of the reasons why they like these particular svarim is because they take these sugyas and they basically demolish them completely. You learn them and you figure out that really, I had no idea what this was talking about. I don't know what's flying. I don't know, not the gemara, not the rash, not the tavas. I don't know anything. Nothing makes sense. And then he comes and puts it back together in a way that's perfect. You're like, wow, it's incredible, that's amazing. You get a completely different way of understanding it. Those are the farm. He's one of those farm. And while he was doing that, the Mekor Chaim says it's hard to have dvekus while you're learning. In the middle, when you lose your dvekus for too much, you have to learn a little something, a little connection. This in yeshivas, I don't know, some people don't learn so much this way, but that's, he's a literal story. That's the way you need to be connected. You need to be, to have this, regularity every 10 minutes, 10, the guy told me every, I don't know, half a minute, every minute. But from Hashem, you're not forget. It's incredible. And he was just so broken, he couldn't do anything. The Rebbe Chaim sent someone to bring him, tell him I need to speak to him. So he came to Rebbe Chaim. Rebbe Chaim took his hand. He said, I want you to know that teshuvah means you're totally a different person. You're not the same person. You're not that person anymore. Everything changed, right? It's teshuvah and everything. You're not the same. Not the same. You're not that same guy. It's not you. Good teshuvah. That's it. Finished. I started crying. He really felt it very deeply. Very, very, very deep. And he said every time he felt a little bit disappointed, little down about it, he would remember teshuvah. It's always possible to teshuvah. And this is this aspect of, again, of what Tu Bishvat's about. It's about changing it around.